The scorching sun beat down on the vast savanna, a timeless rhythm that had existed for millennia. Among the tall grasses, a group of early Homo sapiens moved cautiously, their eyes scanning the horizon. The wind was still the only sound, the occasional rustle of grass beneath their feet. The tribe, small but resilient, was on the hunt. At the edge of the savanna, massive shapes slowly moved across the land, almost too large to fathom. Giant tortoises, their shells glistening in the sun, plodded along with deliberate steps. The size of these creatures dwarfed the humans, but they were not just passive giants. They were a part of the tribe's struggle for survival. One of the women, her face etched with determination, crouched down to examine a footprint in the dirt. The signs were clear the tortoises had been here recently. The hunt would need to wait. There was something else to be done. She motioned for the group to follow her, her arm slicing the air as she silently communicated the plan. The others, a mix of men, women, and children, gathered their tools, stone-tipped spears, flint knives, and woven baskets, and prepared to follow her lead. They had learned long ago that the giant tortoises, though slow, were not without their own dangers. They could crush a human with a single swipe of their massive legs, and their shells, thick and almost impenetrable, made them incredibly difficult to kill. Yet these tortoises were a valuable resource, their flesh, a source of much-needed nourishment. And there was something else inside their hard shells, hidden deep within the tortoises' thick, slow-moving bodies, were treasures, valuable materials that the tribe had long learned to use for tools and shelter. The woman leading the group approached a particularly large tortoise, its massive head grazing the dry ground as it searched for food. With quiet steps, the tribe surrounded it, their movements synchronized. The tension was palpable. This would be no easy task. The woman pointed to the tortoise's legs, signaling for the others to attack. They knew that speed was their greatest ally. As one of the men hurled his spear toward the creature, a sudden sound broke the silence, a distant roar. From the tall grass, a predator had emerged. A giant saber-toothed tiger, its eyes locked onto the tribe. It was not a simple hunt for the tribe. It had now become a race for survival. The women and children froze, the breath caught in their throats. The men turned sharply, weapons at the ready. The giant tortoise, oblivious to the danger, continued to lumber forward, unaware of the deadly predator now stalking the humans. In one swift movement, the tribe dispersed. The women grabbed the children and ran toward the shelter of a nearby cave, while the men formed a protective ring around the tortoise, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The saber-toothed tiger's eyes gleamed with hunger, and as it lunged forward, a battle of survival ensued. The battle between man and beast unfolded in a blur of motion. The giant tortoise, now fully aware of the chaos around it, withdrew into its shell, a defensive mechanism honed over millions of years. The men, knowing they were outmatched in terms of raw power, relied on their cunning. One of the men, the eldest of the group, signaled to the others, his eyes sharp and focused. He raised his spear high and shouted, not with words, but with an intense primal call. His arms moved with purpose as he hurled his weapon directly at the predator's eyes. The saber-toothed tiger recoiled, momentarily blinded, as the spear struck its face. But the tiger was not deterred. With a guttural snarl, it turned its fury on the men, its claws raking through the air. In the chaos, one of the younger men, caught off guard, stumbled. The tiger lunged toward him, its massive jaws snapping shut. Just as the beast was about to strike the woman, the one who had first led the hunt, lunged forward, using the thick bone of a tortoise's leg as a club. She struck the tiger across the head with all her might, forcing it to retreat momentarily. Her heart raced in her chest, but her mind remained steady. This was a battle she could not lose. The other men followed her lead, surrounding the tiger from all sides, their weapons raised. The animal, still blinded and now desperate, hissed in frustration. The tribe's tactics were paying off slowly. The predator's movements became more erratic, and it faltered in its assault. But the real threat was the looming storm. The dark clouds in the sky had begun to roll in, and the wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain. The tribe had to make a decision: defeat the predator or escape the coming storm. The youngest members of the tribe, huddled near the entrance of the cave, were already pointing to the clouds, their faces full of fear. The storm would be ruthless, and the shelter of the cave, while small, was their only chance for survival. In a final desperate act, the tribe made its move. The eldest man, with a gesture as ancient as the earth beneath them, signaled for the retreat. They would leave the predator for now. Survival meant more than pride. With quick and quiet movements, the men helped the women and children into the cave. The giant tortoise, now abandoned by its human guardians, slowly retreated, its large lumbering body, a silent symbol of the earth's ancient strength. Inside the cave, the tribe gathered, their faces painted with a mixture of exhaustion and relief. The storm began in earnest. The sound of the wind howling, the heavy rhythmic pounding of rain against the cave walls, and the occasional rumble of thunder above. The battle with the tiger was over, but the battle against nature had just begun. The tribe huddled around a fire, the light flickering in the dark, casting long shadows on their faces. They were battered, but alive. The rain would eventually stop, but the cold would persist. In the dim firelight, the woman who had led the charge with the tortoises began to hum a low, mournful tune, her voice carrying through the cave. Slowly, one by one, the tribe joined in. They had survived another day. As the storm raged on outside, the tribe's unity became its greatest strength. They sat close, huddled together, the warmth of the fire contrasting against the cold, damp air. The children, tired but safe, nestled against their mothers, their eyes heavy with the promise of sleep. The men exchanged silent glances. There was no need for words. They had survived the predator, the storm, and had done so together. But in the depths of their hearts, they knew there was no guarantee that the next day would bring the same success. The woman who had led them through the battle, her face streaked with mud and blood, sat apart from the group, her eyes focused on the flickering flames. She was the protector, the warrior, but even she needed a moment to reflect. She had seen many battles in her life, but this was different. Today, the tribe had faced a test of its survival instincts, and she had led them to victory. Yet, it was not the fight that weighed on her mind. It was the future. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, a constant reminder that the world around them was in flux. The giant tortoises, now far away, represented a fleeting resource. The tribe knew that they could not rely solely on these creatures for sustenance. They would need to adapt, to evolve in ways that even their ancestors had not anticipated. Their survival depended on more than just strength and weapons. It would require ingenuity, resourcefulness, and an unbreakable bond with the land. As the storm passed, the fire's glow began to fade, and the cave grew colder. But within the safety of its walls, the tribe's resolve grew stronger. The woman rose from her seat, signaling to the others to follow. They would prepare for the next challenge. The tortoises, though valuable, were not enough. The tribe would need to learn from them how to use the resources they had at hand, how to harness the land, and how to defend themselves, not just from predators, but from nature itself. With the storm behind them, the tribe stepped out into the early morning light, their faces set with determination. The savanna stretched out before them, vast, unforgiving, but full of possibilities. The giant tortoises, slow and steady, would always be a part of their world. But now they understood that survival meant more than just coexistence with these ancient creatures. It meant becoming one with the land, mastering its rhythms, and learning to live with the challenges it presented. In the days that followed, the tribe would gather what they needed, use what they had learned, and face each new trial with the same unwavering resolve. For in this world where survival was never certain, it was their unity, their strength, and their adaptability that would ensure they endured. And as the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden glow on the savanna, the tribe stood together, watching the stars begin to twinkle above. The journey was far from over, but for now, they had survived, and that was enough.